Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this press conference. Let me acknowledge the presence on stage of Minister Angelino Alfano of Italy for the Italian presidency, who chaired the meeting today, Commissioner Dimitris Avramopoulos for the European Commission, and Gilles de Kerchove, the EU Counterterrorism Coordinator. I will now hand over the floor to the Minister for his remarks. Minister.
Grazie. Sarò molto breve per dire che è stato un Consiglio di giustizia e affari interni, la parte giustizia ovviamente siete già stati informati ieri, degli affari interni molto proficuo, molto utile. Abbiamo parlato di migrazione, abbiamo parlato di libera circolazione e abbiamo parlato di terrorismo. Riguardo i temi delle migrazioni abbiamo ribadito l'importanza di quanto fatto allo scorso Consiglio di Lussemburgo ed il seguito, che è stato un seguito importante perché è stato coerente sotto tutti i punti di vista con le conclusioni di Lussemburgo. Da un lato l'azione comune europea sulla frontiera del Mediterraneo attraverso la operazione Tritone e per altro verso due importanti conferenze che si sono tenute a Roma, una sul processo di Khartoum e una sul Rabat. Corno d'Africa, Africa centrale, Africa orientale, tutto finalizzato alla cooperazione con i paesi terzi. Anche il nuovo approccio ha avuto la sua prima esperienza ed il nuovo approccio sta in un'azione comune tra i ministri dell'interno e i ministri degli esteri, in una comune azione che parte dal presupposto che un'azione di politica estera, esclusivamente di politica estera, sul tema delle migrazioni è insufficiente. È una pura azione di politica da ministri degli interni sulla questione della migrazione è altrettanto insufficiente e quindi occorre lavorare insieme. Abbiamo anche dato mandato al Coreper per strutturare le modalità di un'agenda comune, di un'azione comune, e questi sono tutti i risultati sul versante della migrazione. Per quanto riguarda l'azione in ambito di sicurezza e di criminalità ed specificamente di lotta contro il terrorismo, abbiamo adottato le linee guida sulla radicalizzazione e la strategia di reclutamento nella Unione Europea e il commissario De Kerchove ha relazionato molto bene. Sul PNR europeo abbiamo dovuto prendere atto delle difficoltà che ancora sussistono nel rapporto con il Parlamento europeo e quindi questo è stato un punto su cui abbiamo lavorato parecchio anche oggi e su cui andremo avanti nel negoziato con il Parlamento europeo. Per quanto riguarda il funzionamento dello spazio Schengen, sono state presentate alcune relazioni che hanno rafforzato l'idea di quanto la libera circolazione abbia rappresentato un punto fondamentale della Unione Europea e un rafforzamento di questa identità di un popolo unico europeo e anche i problemi nella gestione delle frontiere nel tempo della migrazione. È stato un grande esordio, e lo dico in conclusione del mio intervento, per il nuovo commissario Dimitris Avramopoulos che ha relazionato su alcune questioni importanti e ha anche assunto la gravosa, pesante responsabilità su di sé dei negoziati molto delicati nel processo di codecisione con il Parlamento europeo. Quindi siamo soddisfatti dell'esito di questo Consiglio, è andato bene e sono convinto che la Presidenza lettone potrà continuare i risultati che riteniamo molto soddisfacenti della Presidenza italiana.
Grazie signor Presidente. È stato per me un piacere aver partecipato per la prima volta al Consiglio Affari Interni. Questo è anche l'ultima riunione Affari Interni svolta nel quadro della Presidenza italiana e vorrei pertanto cogliere l'occasione per congratularmi con il Ministro e amico Angelino Alfano per l'eccezionale lavoro svolto negli ultimi 6 mesi. Well, in this Council meeting, as the Minister said before, I also had the opportunity to discuss with the Ministers a number of pressing issues. Migration. First, we discussed the migration and asylum flows towards Europe. As it is very well known, we are confronted with increasing pressures at our external borders and inside the European Union. Looking at the conflicts in our immediate neighborhood, it is unlikely that the current dramatic situation is going to change anytime soon. Therefore, we need to have a common understanding of the challenges. To address these common European challenges, we need to have a common approach which fully respects human rights. I informed the ministers on the progress that has taken place in the last months in our efforts to improve the management of migration flows. And here are some examples. On the 1st of November, we launched, as you know, Operation Triton in the central Mediterranean. In the first week of this operation, and together with the Italian Navy, 8,952 asylum seekers and irregular migrants were rescued or intercepted, and 42 facilitators were arrested. They are elements given to us by Frontex. However, today's news of the tragic deaths of 18 migrants off the coast of Lampedusa serves as a stark reminder that much more needs to be done. We have expanded our cooperation with countries outside the European Union, which are either countries of origin or transit countries. The President said before that we had this very important gathering in Rome, some days ago, and for the first time, all around the same table, there were the countries of origin, countries of transit, and countries of destination. Beyond that, and specifically, we have just signed a mobility agreement with Jordan, and in Rome last week, we established a concrete dialogue with many other also African countries. Our target, our aim is to develop a comprehensive approach with countries outside the European Union. We will also do our utmost to protect those in transit countries through the Regional Protection Programme. However, much more needs to be done, as I said at the beginning. We need to provide credible responses in a spirit of greater solidarity and responsibility. As a matter of priority, the Member States should focus on the implementation of the new rules of the common European asylum system. The full and efficient implementation of the common European asylum system will help reduce the gap between the few countries which currently receive the vast majority of asylum requests in the European Union and those who are not confronted with these challenges. But if we want to make the difference, we need to turn good intentions into concrete actions. This means that all Member States have to contribute a credible number of resettlement places. Resettling means saving the most vulnerable refugees from taking deadly journeys to Europe. Resettling also means reducing the migratory and asylum pressure at European borders, and in particular in the Mediterranean. It is simply not sustainable to have a situation where the countries that resettle the most refugees are at the same time the countries that receive the most asylum requests. We are currently studying a pilot project involving most, and I hope all at some point in time, Member States, with the aim of achieving fair burden sharing and a credible number of resettlement places throughout the European Union. And now about Schengen. We discussed the functioning of the Schengen area. I presented to the ministers the report on the functioning of the Schengen area for the period May to October 2014. These health checks, as they are called, are a good opportunity to identify and discuss the challenges that we face in the Schengen area. One major challenge is irregular migration. The situation in the neighborhood of the European Union continues to be unstable. This is reflected in the latest figures of irregular border crossings. In the first 10 months of this year, there were 229,000 irregular border crossings compared to some 94,000 during the same period in the year 2013. There is always a risk of further instability. For example, in the event of sudden escalation of tensions in our eastern neighborhood, notably Ukraine, this will add considerable pressure on our eastern Schengen borders. Therefore, we have a duty to respond to such challenges. This is why I very much welcome the entering into force on November 27 of the new Schengen governance. The new system gives the Commission a central role when it comes to monitoring and evaluating the implementation of the Schengen rules. This means that we are better equipped to detect possible problems and to prevent them. Above all, I will make sure that the Commission takes over fully its new role, in order to further guarantee the free movement of hundreds of millions of Europeans. And then, about terrorism. We discussed the fight against terrorism. The issue of foreign fighters and returnees is one of the most urgent challenges that Europe currently faces. A growing number of young people are attracted by radicalized narratives and subjugated by the propaganda machine of terrorists. They are likely to travel to conflict zones, to get trained in the use of weapons and explosives, and to become familiar with violence and war. Once they return to the European Union, they can represent a real threat for our security. This is why we have to act at the European level on three main priorities: prevent and deter further departures, monitor and pursue foreign fighters, protect our citizens, societies and economies from attacks within Europe. Yesterday, I also had the opportunity to discuss with the Ministers of Justice the necessity of new legislation for the prosecution of terrorists. We need to follow up on this issue and improve all relevant legal instruments and present new EU legislation if needed. When it comes to anti-terrorism measures and actions, the main competence lies in the hands of Member States. But since the Member States face the same problems, there is a need for European coordination and exchange of information. That is why the European Commission plays an important role, a central role in this process. We are strengthening the work of Radicalization Awareness Network to fight violent extremism and radicalized propaganda. We have begun to cooperate with Internet service providers, and we are looking at concrete ways to work together, for example, how to disseminate counter-narratives online. We are already working together with Member States to better analyze and monitor radicalization hubs in the European Union and to have a clearer overview of the recruitment and travelling patterns that facilitate the journeys to conflict zones. To this aim, we must better use the possibilities offered by the Schengen Information System. In other words, to allow accelerated and improved information exchange on specific check alerts issued on foreign fighters. And now about PNR. Another important tool that will allow better surveying and monitoring of recruitment and travelling patterns is the establishment of an EU passenger's name record system. In fact, since PNR was the main issue that we discussed, I would like to make a few final remarks on this issue. As you know, the European Parliament has decided to request an opinion from the European Court of Justice on the draft.
Mr. Tekekov.
Thank you very much. I'll be brief because the briefing by Minister Alfano, the chairman of the Council, and the Commissioner Avramopoulos was pretty extensive. I was invited today to give my assessment of where we are and whether we had implemented well the decision taken last October. My assessment is indeed that the work under the leadership of Minister Alfano has worked very well. A lot of hard working by the Commission, many good proposals and many interesting work in the Council working groups and committees. But we have to, at the same time, acknowledge that the threat is still very serious. We have not been able to stem the flow of foreign fighters. It's still growing steadily. The social media are still very much used, and I refer during my intervention to a study of the University of Milano, which shows how much, even in Europe, a high percentage of Arabic speakers use social media to promote the jihad. Aviation security remains a serious concern as well. So for all these reasons, although we have worked very well, I think we need to step up the work to speed up the tempo in a way. In all the elements that were mentioned by both Minister Alfano and Commissioner Avramopoulos, Internet, the Commission plans to set up a sort of public-private partnership. Let's do it very quickly. Border control, we are nearly there to have what was decided in October, systematic electronic check on travel document, more systematic check of person, to check also to use better the SIS and flag the foreign fighters better in the SIS. So that's a set of measures where I would like to see results very quickly, early 2015. On sharing of information, which was another issue, we had an assessment by Europol on the use of the focal point travelers, which is a specific mechanism inside Europol to collect all the law enforcement information available in the member states. It's a good first step, but it does not reflect the scale of the problem, and the call was for member states to share even more and more effectively. Finally, on PNR, as the Commissioner said, ministers once again, but I think it's the 10th time, repeated how much it is needed, because it's one of the few, if not the only mechanism to detect suspicious travel of unknown people. Those we know, we have to use more Europol, Interpol and the SIS. Where we don't know, we need to use PNR. And an EU legislation would bring a more effective system, because it would cover the 28 member states, and a more protective solution, because if we have only national solution, we will have uneven protection for the citizens in Europe. So the call is against, and anything the Commission can do to explain more and more why we need that and why it would be in the interest of everyone to have an EU legislation, the better. Thank you.